Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that asks, how do you have a space party? You plan it. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Wildlands from Osprey Games. In Wildlings from Osprey Games, 2 to 4 players take on the roles of various factions with very kooky and interesting groups of people as they attempt to dominate the Wildlands realm and gain the most victory points. The double-sided game board has 2 different places to play, the ruins or the dungeon, and each has their own unique geographical features. Now, there are 4 factions in this game. You have the Guild, the Lawbringers, the Nomads, and the Pit Fighters. Now, each faction and each player that plays them is going to have a number of shards, 5 shards that they're going to have, as well as 5 different figures they're going to have. You're going to place a unique colored base on each of the figures. They're also going to have their own unique deck. When the game begins, players are going to go ahead and look at these space cards. Now, each space on the board is numbered. So you're going to have these space cards that have various numbers on them. You're going to be dealt out 10 of these. You're going to select 5 where you want each of your people to begin. You select them, you put them face down. Then you're going to take the 5 cards that you didn't select and pass them to your neighbor. You are then going to look at those 5 cards that you were passed, and you're going to place your unique colored shard on each of those spaces. Now, on your turn, you're going to go ahead and reveal one of your characters, essentially show which location they're in and place the character in that location. Then you can go ahead and you can take various actions. You can spend a card with that character's icon on it to move a space, or you can engage in melee combat or ranged combat, depending on a number of factors, but you have to have the cards that actually support that specific character. So that character is going to have not only the character on there, but the icon of a ranged attack or a melee attack or whatever you want to do. There are different icons on the cards, like I say, ranged, melee attack, but you're going to also have different kinds of defensive cards. You may have flight, which lets you move further, and several other specific icons that let you do specific things. So as I say, you can discard cards to move. You can also spend the cards to engage in these attacks. Now, when you play a card from your hand to attack another player whom you are attacking, they can play one of their cards to see if they can defend. If they can't defend, then they are going to be damaged a certain number, depending on the kind of attack, and they're going to put the damage on their character so that you know that they have taken so many hits. Now, once a character takes enough hits that it's equal to their kind of defense value, then they are eliminated, and the player that eliminated that character takes your figure as kind of a trophy. It's going to be worth 1 victory point. Players are also going to go ahead and try to get to their specific shards. Now, if you're on one of your shards and you play 3 cards with that character's icon on it, you can gain a shard. That is another victory point. At the end of your turn, you can go ahead and you draw 3 cards. You can never have more than a total of 7 cards. So players are going ahead, they're using their cards to move, to attack, to defend. So if a player is defending, he's not going to have as many options as when it is his turn. But players go around and around, they can move, they can attack, they can reveal new characters, they can try to get those shards. They're doing all of these things while trying to protect themselves, and whoever is the first to gain 5 points, that is a combination of shards and eliminating other players, wins Wildlands. So a while back, about a year or so ago, I reviewed the Judge Dredd version of this game from Osprey Games, and I liked that. I actually had a lot of fun. It was a brawler, but I thought it was kind of unique and interesting. And then recently, the good people at Osprey Games sent me a copy of Wildlands to review, and I was kind of excited to see this iteration of it and see how much it changed. And the reality is not a lot. It feels very similar to the Judge Dredd game. Now, one thing I didn't mention in my rules overview is you've got an interrupt action, and you can actually interrupt players. They declare their action, they can take their action, and somebody can interrupt and try to do something in between your actions there to kind of, so you never know when somebody's going to interrupt, and that's a good thing on one hand because you can stop somebody potentially from doing something that's going to damage you. But on the other hand, that interrupt action, you got to play the interrupt card, and you got to play a card that is going to help you to take the actions you want to take. But the problem fundamentally is if you do that, you've got less cards on your turn. So this is really a game about hand management. Or at least to a good part about hand management. You want to make sure you've got the cards when you need them. And that's not always possible if you're trying to save guys, because you got to play them for defense, but then you may not have them to do your own attacks or your movements or to gather shards. Because the cards are fickle, and you don't know when the specific cards that you need and the icons that you need will pop up in your deck, in your hand. So it's a really interesting challenge here. But I really enjoy it. This is a really fun kind of a brawler. It's a direct conflict game, and Martin Wallace, who designed it's known for a lot of his Euros, but this is a good example of when he does these games that involve more direct conflict. And I really, really did enjoy it quite a bit. In fact, just with the theme and some of the artwork and the miniatures, I got to be honest, I think I prefer Wildlands to the Judge Dredd version of Wildlands. I think it's just a little, rules-wise, they're virtually identical as far as I can tell, but the Wildlands version, I don't know, I just like the theme better. I like the minis. I found them more engaging, which is odd because usually if you give me a science fiction theme and a fantasy theme, I'll take the science fiction theme 9 times out of 10, but here I prefer this kind of fantasy theme to the science fiction of Judge Dredd. But they're both great games, both a lot of fun, so it's really a matter of what theme suits you. Now, they do have some more expansions, and I'll probably be coming out with some reviews on those shortly for Wildlands, but just bear in mind, this game has a lot of possibilities to it that for these expansions, and it's just the Judge Dredd thing. I think it just has the one faction. I don't think they've done any more expansions yet for it. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, really like Wildlands, had a heck of a lot of fun with it. Recommendation for the discriminating gamer is, I think you're going to want to buy this one. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We'd also ask you to please give us a thumb on Board Game Geek for this review. That helps us out a lot. And if you're interested in World War II and military history, I recommend you check out my other channel. That is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about a lot of those fun things. Please subscribe to that as well. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, and I got to tell you something I've recently noticed, and that is whenever you see two artists have a contest, it almost always ends in a draw. Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know